Of course, it is 8:08 when we begin September 2nd's class again with yours truly, Laura J. and Francoise Lepchak. We are now live, so it's great to be with you. I'm going to share my screen as we dive into the 4 pillars of wisdom, and that is what we are going to be reading the second pillar of tonight. And Francoise is gracious enough to do a summary of each chapter before we actually read it, which tonight will be chapters 3 and 4. So, Francoise, how are you this evening?
I'm just fine. I'm just fine. Everything is nice here.
Beautiful. Well, I'm grateful to be with you. I'm grateful that you show up with me each week and that you go through the chapter and prepare the Coles notes for us. So if you want to share those now, we'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Laura. It's really a pleasure to be with you every week.
Thanks.
So I'll give you the main idea of this third chapter, the sacred science. First, Saint Germain tells us that the key to alchemy for all alchemists is that we must precede the acquisition before all other keys for alchemy is the mastery of oneself. So this is the main key for the studies in alchemy, is the mastery of oneself. And to be successful, to be a successful alchemist, we must be consciously aware of our God-given freedom to create. God-given freedom to create. We must be conscious of that. And in this chapter, he releases some methods of visualization that, when applied, give us the ability to perform for God and man a service of the first magnitude. That's very interesting. And he is talking about discord. What discord is doing, he says that discord is a perversion of life energy. And there's a lot of discord in the world right now. Yeah. So maybe this chapter can help us overcome this, or at least understand. So the discord that we impose upon others are discord that we impose upon the atoms of our substance, even of our own body. And we must remove that from our laboratory before we can create. So discord is one of the main topic of this chapter.
Well, that's fantastic, Francoise. I'm so excited to read chapter 3, The Sacred Science, with thee tonight. And wanted to say, actually, if you look at the word discord and then change dis for un, what we have a chance to do is uncord ourselves from the BS belief systems that somebody else sold us and told us was for our greatest and highest good, when that may not actually legitimately be the truth. And so this is all about coming back into alignment with who and whose we truly are. And I am so excited to share this, because that realization or new dawning of ideation came to me as you were saying that, Francoise. So thank you. All right, and so we begin. The Science of Self-Transformation, Chapter 3, The Sacred Science. The domain of individual destiny is controlled by an interplay of many cosmic forces, mainly benign. But in the present world society, due to mankind's misunderstanding of both earthly and heavenly purposes, these forces have been turned to other uses, frequently chaotic and disintegrating. Alchemy was originally intended to be a means of enriching individual destiny by making available the technique of changing base metals into gold, thereby producing opulence in the affairs of the successful practitioner. The dedication of the early alchemists to the cause of ferreting out its secrets was complete, and it was sanctified by the coordination of their minds with the works of their hands. These alchemists pursued their experiments under the duress of persecution, led by the entrenched reactionary forces of their day, and it is a tribute to their lives and honor that they persisted in the search. Thus, they brought forth and bequeathed to humanity the bona fide results of their efforts as acknowledged scientific achievement and annotated philosophic knowledge to bless the culture and archives of the world order. It ought to become increasingly clear to the students of this course that I am determined to bring to your minds and feelings a new sense of freedom. The wholesome concepts presented herein must indicate to your total being that the key to alchemy that must precede the acquisition of all other keys is the mastery of yourself to a greater or lesser degree. This key must be recognized for what it is, for self mastery is the key to all self knowledge. It must then be understood and used, at least in part, and you must acknowledge without question that you yourself are the alchemist who shall determine the design of your creation. Furthermore, you must know yourself as the real self and your creation as coming forth from that self. It may surprise some to learn that seething vortices of humanly discordant thoughts and feelings daily impose a hypnotic effect upon almost everyone on earth. These tend to nullify the great concentration of intelligent creative power that is the birthright of every man, woman, and child on this planet, though it is consciously employed by far too few. While increasing numbers among mankind seek after freedom, the reactionary elements, either with or without purpose, attempt to burden the race with new shackles each time deliverance from one form or another of human bondage is secured. The alchemist, to be successful, must be consciously aware of his God given freedom to create. Those restrictions and restraints imposed upon the soul as forms of human bondage must be shunned. Yet in every case, these must be distinguished from the necessary laws which structure society. Beauty and righteousness must be emblazoned upon the left and right hand to remind the would be alchemist of his responsibility to God and man to behold his works before releasing them to see that they are indeed good and good for all men. I am releasing in these studies in alchemy methods of visualization which will give the students who will apply them, as I did, the ability to perform for God and man a service of the first magnitude. I trust that the myth of human equality will be dispelled and that in the dignity of equal opportunity, the evolutions of this planetary home will come to know and love the expansive potential of the Christ in all. Thus, the forging ahead of humanity will be marked by a greater malleability of the soul and less ignorance of man's universal purpose to develop his individual talents that has heretofore existed on earth. As the early alchemists attained a measure of success in probing the secrets of the universe, they became acutely aware of the need to band together and to withhold from the public eye certain discoveries which they made. A number of religious orders and secret societies grew out of this need, and the remnants thereof have survived in the present day. The need to repress as well as to express was recognized, just as enlightened men of today realize that harmony in the social order and among the nations and the eradication of the causes of war and civil strife would remove all reasons for withholding any knowledge that would prove to be universally beneficial. Let me declare, because I can speak in the light of true knowledge, that the early alchemists were not nearly so unsuccessful as history would have men believe. Their discoveries were legion, and they included knowledge both secular and religious, science and philosophic. Above all, they unlocked many truths which, at a later date, were made general knowledge. Let not the world discount all of the stories that have been recounted of the suppression of invention and new ideas for economic and political reasons. When it suited their purposes, men in high places have ever so often instructed their hirelings to help to keep secret the very knowledge which belongs to the ages and which is the heritage of the people of all nations. Regardless of such dishonorable dealings, the masters of wisdom will never transfer this knowledge to mankind until the alchemy of reason heals the internal breach of selfishness within enough of the race that the torch of knowledge may be everlastingly held in the selfless hand of justice. I am preparing your minds in these first 3 lessons to better assimilate the full release of wisdom's flame that has been made a part of this course. It is frequently the despair of men that they did not have a certain choice bit of knowledge long before it came into their hands. This feeling is certainly understandable, but no lamentation that is without constructive leadings is ever desirable. It is preferable that men perceive the now of the present as God's hour rather than the folded parchments of past ages. The fading hieroglyphs of yesterday's errors can neither confute the present truth nor act as a panacea to heal their unfortunate sowings. They serve only as media of contrast to amplify the present sense of gratitude that glories in such progress as now manifests to dispel the ignorance of former times. A determined dedication to use the energies of today to open the doorway into the domain of the future is expected of the student of alchemy. Therefore, let him see to it that his present expansion of the science of alchemy is sufficient to transform the base qualities of the human nature into an altar on which the flame of living reality will fire the grandeur of the golden age now emerging within the Christ mind. Let his endeavors likewise be sufficient to balance the travails of world injustice, and let him work to secure for posterity eras of increasingly abundant progress, enlightenment, happiness, and universal spirituality. When used by the alchemist, symbols and symbology, properly understood, are literally charged with meaning. For example, Mercury is the symbol of speed and interprets to the consciousness the thought of wakeful, reverent alertness, which swiftly endows the chemistry of action with the intensity of application. Salt equates with the idea of selfhood and reminds mankind of the need to have the self retain the savor of its divine source in preference to the crystallization of identity within the Sodom and Gomorrah of materiality indicated in the historical figure of Lot's wife. Fire as life is the catalyst which can be increased from the cosmic light within the cosmic rays in order to intensify and purify the radiance of life in the contemplated design. Moreover, the conscious invocation of life makes all of the alchemist's manifestations doubly secure. Earth symbolizes the natural crystalline densities created out of spirit's energies and sustained by the beings of the elemental kingdom. These tiny creators, in their mimicry of human discord, have transferred to nature mankind's inharmonious patterns. Thus, the convergence of human error upon the planetary body come forth as thorn, thistle, insect, and beast of prey, and the Pandora's box of astral forms was opened by laggard civilizations whose misguided free will and selfishness have perverted life's energies even on other systems of worlds. It is this discord imposed upon the very atoms of substance which the alchemist must remove from his laboratory before he can create. It is this dross which the alchemist will purify by fire. I do not expect that every reader will immediately understand all of the concepts that are included in this course. While it is true that I advocate simplicity in the phrasing of the basic laws of God, I am also aware that thought forms worded in the higher order will be productive of greater good as the world is able to accept them. I therefore include herein elements designed to challenge those of every level of awareness to study, to show themselves approved onto the God flame within. Thus, individual alchemical advances will be achieved by all who faithfully apply the teachings. The most insidious type of bondage is that in which the prisoner is not aware of his chains. I am certain the real science of alchemy can serve to set free everyone on earth who will accept it. Therefore, out of respect for its supreme purpose, I consider it to be the sacred science. Remember, blessed children of men, that the purpose of true science should be to increase happiness and to free the race from every outer condition that does not serve to exalt man into the pristine greatness of his original cosmic purpose. All postulations, whether of a social, economic, religious, or scientific nature, should be infused with the freedom which allows men to progress. All who attempt to lead mankind progressively forward in these fields should admit to the possibility of change without in any way challenging those infallible pinions of the human spirit referred to as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Certainly, the opportunity for progress and the freedom to innovate cannot affect the immutability of divine truth or the integrity of the Logos, whose power uttereth speech from those untrammeled heights to which we jointly aspire. I am progressively yours in the holy science, Saint Germain. We'll go over to where you can use the keys to take this information deeper. And because it's Saint Germain, the protocol we will use is to Master Saint Germain. So here we go. Let's do a protocol. Francoise with me. Thank you. In the name of beloved Lord Maitreya, Almoira, and Guru Ma, I ask and command my I Am presence and beloved Master Saint Germain to lower into my heart center your momentum of light and the energy of the dictation I have just read in order to transmute a corresponding portion of my human consciousness and human creation. Absorb my human consciousness and return it to me requalified and purified. Pass the flame of your higher consciousness through the density and debris of my lower consciousness. Take in the energy of my microscopic consciousness to your heart's altar. Consume and transmute it, and return to me the purified substance, the original innocence that is my higher consciousness. All right, we'll go back now to the summary of chapter 4, Dare to Do.
Yes, dare to do. In this chapter, Saint Germain explained that if we expect to succeed in alchemy, which is dependent on the higher laws of spiritual science, we must nurture the faith on which the strength of our invocation and concentration will rest. That's a very nice counsel he's telling us here. The requirement for everyone who would be a wonderman of spiritual accomplishment on behalf of the holy purposes of the universe, universal law itself, is a renewal of faith in the power of God in our life. After depending on our five senses and on having accepted mortal limitation, Saint Germain invites us to turn our thinking to new possibilities in order to be free from human restriction and to try. Oh, the word try is very important word for him. And it could become very important for us also to try and explain what he means by the word try. So it's a very interesting chapter.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for daring to do the reviews of the chapters in advance of coming together for these sessions, Francoise.
It's bringing us a little bit further than our usual thinking that is just narrow.
Yeah.
narrow thing.
Well, the realization that I just had as I was reading through this is that everything I've been doing has actually been ultimately leading to daring to teach alchemy without understanding that I'm meant to help with teaching people how to alchemize their own lives, which is what the transformation of self image is, which is what I say in the last 4.5 years while writing this book that rewrote me before the world got to see the version that this me will be able to write. It's like going through that process was me refining and burning through so many layers of who and whose I thought I was. Not the whose I thought I was, because I was never religiously indoctrinated. So I didn't have to cut through that BS, which I'm saying belief systems when I say belief systems BS. But like I had to go through so many purifying stages and phases. And Francoise, I'm sure the same is true for you as to how both of us would be who find ourselves in the view right now. And if you're watching this now, you can join us next Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time again to do the same. And we're going to read the next 2 chapters beyond what we're daring to do now. So now that I've used the chapter a few times that it so seems redundant at this point, we're going to actually dig in unless there's anything you wanted to add here, Francoise.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, because the chapter is really worth listening to it and to ponder it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, here we go. Chapter 4, Dare to Do. Versatility. I am eternally grateful for that many splendored quality of creation. The universe is fragmented. It is spread apart from a center of oneness to a diversity of light, color, tone, and density. Each partaker of a scene, whether pastoral or of transitory ugliness, ought to remember that the splintered shafts of light rays that compose the swaddling garments of all of creation connect directly with the great source and fountainhead of cosmic unity. In my historical experiences preceding my ascension, which was identical in its rising action to the elevation of Jesus the Christ, I was in a constant state of listening grace, whereby my inner ears and eyes were fixed upon a lovely realm of light and perfection, which served to remove the sting of earthly life from my consciousness, producing a comfort that my friends did not perceive. They often pondered the cause of my inner serenity without understanding its origin. The contacts with my earthly brethren and the appearances that I have made since my ascension have not always been under circumstances where those I met were aware of either my identity or my power. May I humbly state that, as in other similar cases where one of the ascended host has selected to part the veil of matter and Maya to contact directly unascended humanity, the latter have entertained angels unawares. I am well aware that some of my readers may opine, inasmuch as I am one who has passed through the veil, that this release of my words is of a psychic or spiritualistic nature. Let me quickly affirm that it is neither. God be praised that my own life stream need not subscribe to such limiting forms. The fact that we are expressing or vibrating our life in higher dimensions, where ordinary human faculties of seeing and hearing do not function, renders neither our service nor our reality of any less effect, nor does it force me to subscribe to the above named methods of communication. Blessed ones, you do not by ordinary means perceive radio waves, for they remain inaudible until detected in the miracle of the electronic tube. Therefore, trust in heaven's capacity to communicate with man directly. Because of my dedication to the holy cause of freedom, I have since my ascension consistently maintained a contact with one or more life streams embodied upon earth, and that by cosmic decree and with the approval of the heavenly hierarchy. Beloved Jesus and other great luminaries who have descended in the fullness of the divine plan have likewise appeared to their disciples down through the ages, and do occasionally manifest to men and women of today with no more effort than that employed to dial a radio or television. My purpose in discussing the subject of heaven's winged messages from the great cloud of witnesses is not as foreign to alchemy as might at first appear, for it portrays to you a necessary part of my program in the cause of freedom, of which the current series in alchemy is an integral part. You see, blessed ones, the creation of the visible is wholly dependent upon those essences which are not visible to the unaided eye. Yet the central ideas occupying the minds of most people, originating as they do in the transient effects of human causation, are not of enough consequence to deserve comment or to be ordained with permanent reality. I am certain you will agree that even as the range of ordinary human experience becomes monotonous for souls both great and small, so it is a wonderful blessing to them to be able to see into the higher octaves of creation by means of an adjusted consciousness, and thus draw inspiration directly from the mind of nature and nature's God. Ignorance, with its defilement of the law, deprives the individual and society of enlightenment. The only cure is illumined obedience, together with scientific attentiveness to the detail of the law. The benefits of divine wisdom remain unknown to many who suppose that the old familiar theories are adequate to meet the demands of the hour, and that nothing beyond empiricism or the empirical method is required. Actually, the accepted tenets of modern science, being but partially true, are incomplete and therefore provide an inadequate foundation upon which to base advanced research and the control of the elements. An attitude of complacency does not allow for progress in any endeavor, human or divine. Thus, where grace might abound, it does not. Complacency remains a bulwark of reactive ignorance, preventing mankind from sharing in the abundance which all heaven stands waiting to shower upon those free souls whose purity of heart and guileless nature make most receptive to our thoughts. Before conferring alchemical knowledge of any depth upon you, I wish to exalt you into that divine nobility which is as real as the light of the day and your greatest strength in meeting the challenges of the morrow. To do this may require some examination of the spirit of those sincere alchemists whose excursions into the unknown were productive in more ways than one. Even the souls who failed completely to discover a method of changing base metals into gold were benefited beyond their farthest dreams by the blessings which came to them as a result of their search. Even the persecutions served to band them together in singleness of purpose, which, midst human diversity with its unfortunate tendencies toward greed and selfishness, is an achievement in itself. I am in the hope that you will prepare yourself to succeed in your endeavors. Above all, stand ready to make the necessary changes in your thoughts and preconceived ideas that will make it possible for you to be victorious. If man expects to succeed in alchemy, which is in truth dependent on the higher laws of spiritual science, he must nurture the faith on which the strength of his invocation and concentration will rest. The fusion of metal, the control of atomic forces, and the direction of electronic energy by the mind of man acting in higher dimensions are easy enough once the grasp is acquired. However, after years of dependence upon the five senses and the attendant acceptance of mortal limitation, I am certain you can see how utterly important it is that your thinking become geared to new possibilities in order to function free of human restrictions and the dampening of a divine ardor by those who say, because they do not know, impossible. Let me say to all in freedom's name, try. While you are preparing your consciousness for the reception of the knowledge of tomorrow, be aware then of the need to ponder the origin of concepts involving limitation. Beloved ones, you must be sane and balanced in all you do, but realize that true science borders on the miraculous to those who do not understand its formulas. You approach a solid wall with the idea that you cannot walk through it, yet it is not solid at all, but as full of holes as the wire of a chicken coop. You cannot walk upon hot coals without burning your feet, and yet medicine men of a less illumined culture than your own do so with impunity. Countless miracles of Christ have been duplicated by men and women of various times and climes since his wondrous advent. And yet, because of human skepticism and forgetfulness, the wonder of it all has been relegated to the realm of myth or the imaginings of gullible minds. Let me plead for a renewal of faith in the power of God, for this is a requirement of everyone who would be a Wonder Woman, a Wonder Man of spiritual accomplishment on behalf of the holy purposes of the universal law itself. Without faith, it is not only impossible to please God, but I declare unto you it is impossible to manifest the perfection of his laws. As faith is so great a requirement, would it not pay well for each one to re-examine his reasons for doubt? Note well that most doubts arise from patterns of self-deception and the practice of deceit and the failures of the human mind to fulfill its professed integrity. Seeing then that such negative conditions stem from the consciousness of error, would it not be ever so wise for all to look unto me, the presence of Almighty God, and live? With God, all things are possible. But as in every science, proficiency does not usually come about without knowledge and its persistent application. The few who are exceptions to this rule may be called geniuses. But when the whole law is understood, it will be proven that even they had their hours of diligent study and practice. I particularly want to point out that the purpose of our release of alchemical secrets in this course is to place in your hands and in the laboratory of your consciousness the knowledge of the law, which we ourselves have used for centuries with the greatest of success and with the reverence of life, which is of prime necessity to an inquiring mind poised on the loving intent of an honest heart. Here, idle curiosity is exchanged for that moral grandeur which so lifts a man above his fellows as to make of him a divine star in the firmament of his contemporaries. Lifted then by no false pride or intellectual misinterpretations, the true alchemist stands with humble mien, gazing expectantly at the teacher who will impart to him, if the attitude and the application be correct, the priceless knowledge of the ages. May I fondly hope that you will reread the early lessons and assimilate therefrom a new sense of progress, of all new possibilities. I am determined that many in this class shall succeed, and I shall continue to do my part above and below in your octave, that this prove true, and that great illumination, hope, peace, and understanding be born and renewed within you all. I am faithfully yours, Saint Germain. And so we will go again to the pearl call, inserting where it is purple, Master Saint Germain. So, in the name of beloved Lord Maitreya, Almoira, and Guru Ma, I ask and command my I Am Presence and beloved Master Saint Germain to lower into my heart center your momentum of light and the energy of the dictation I have just read in order to transmute a corresponding portion of my human consciousness and human creation. Absorb my human consciousness and return it to me requalified and purified. Pass the flame of your higher consciousness through the density and debris of my lower consciousness. Take in the energy of my microscopic consciousness to your heart's altar. Consume and transmute it, and return to me the purified substance, the original innocence that is my higher consciousness. Higher self, higher consciousness. What's the difference, Francoise?
What the difference between?
The difference between higher self and higher consciousness.
Well, higher self is your holy Christ self. And higher consciousness is the consciousness of the Christ.
So what's the distinction between those two?
Well, you can speak about the consciousness of the Christ in you. And if you speak about your holy Christ self, you're talking about his presence. So, of course, his consciousness is in his presence, but it's like you and me, we are in presence of each one, but our consciousness, it's a part of us that is expressing something special. So the Christ consciousness, the higher consciousness, is the consciousness of the Christ, which we are, let's say, try to attain and
Right.
to receive
Right.
in the exchange when we call for the presence of our Christ self around us and in us through our heart chakra.
Oh, beautiful. And that's about really stoking the fire of the inner flame within the secret
Yeah.
chamber of the heart, which
It's
is
it's through the heart that we can contact our holy Christ self. And when we pray and when we give decrees or we make invocation to the presence of God and our RM presence or our holy Christ self, then they come near and can surround us, especially when we recite the tube of light.
yes, the tube of light. So we've got some extra time if you wanted to do 3 tube of light decrees.
Oh, that would be nice.
So here we are over at the Shambhala Temple of Light.com. And there is a Saturday service at 7 p.m. where we do half an hour of decrees, and that's the latest program each week. And then this is the Mixler program where you'll be able to either listen to it here or actually go there direct and then participate in that broadcast. But I wanted to show you the Tube of Light decree. So this is the program for their Saturday night decrees, and I'm just gonna zoom this out a little bit. And the Head, Heart, and Hand decrees by Almoira. This is where we do 3 sets of each of these. I don't know that we want to necessarily do all of these tonight since that wasn't planned, but certainly we can do the Tube of Light, which is basically calling down this tube of light from our holy Christ, this is from our I am that I am presence up in the causal body where all of our positively qualified choices are stored as energy. And then the Christ self is where we then bring down that light. And as Francoise said, what's interesting in a course that Francoise and I actually take on the masters on a Tuesday night is that the lesson that we just were talking about on Tuesday is about how we so oftentimes, I always thought that the light came down through the crown, but now what we understand, or what the teachings say, is that that light from source actually comes down from our I am that I am, and then is filtered through the Christ consciousness of our higher self or our higher Christ self. If I'm understanding what you were saying there, Francoise, correctly, for that light to then be able to come down to us. The halo effect is when we actually are fully wearing that anointed Christed self aspect of ourselves. And then it comes down first to the heart through the crystal cord that comes down to the heart chakra first, or the sacred chamber of the heart, where at the center point of the threefold flame of wisdom, love, and power, we have the center point, which is really our center point, or the source of who we are. That's where our soul sits. And then that light comes down from there, and then it goes down. Is it to the sacral chakra or the solar plexus first, and then to the heart, and then to the throat chakra? Or is it first to the throat chakra and then the solar plexus? Do you remember?
um, I'm not sure if I heard you well. Are you talking about the crystal cord again, or?
So the talking about the crystal cord, but then actually talking about with the chakra system on Tuesday night, how we were learning about how that light comes down to the heart chakra, and then it actually is a toroidal field effect. So kind of like if you imagine ourselves as the center or the core of an apple, and then the apple, the meat of the apple is our energy field or the aura, like what we covered last time in Pillar 1. And so basically, when that light comes down, it comes to the heart, and then the solar plexus, and then the throat chakra, and then it goes down to the sacral chakra, and then it comes up to the third eye, and then it goes down to the root chakra, and then up to the crown. And it's that toroidal patterning effect of really merging and moving through our energy systems in a very fluid way that we don't necessarily expect. So that's the umbilical cord to our highest self, so to speak. And then the violet flame is the gift Saint Germain gave to humanity to be able to help us transmute the karma from previous lifetimes and this one, so that actually enough of us can make our ascension in this life and do what Jesus did, right, Francoise?
Exactly. We can, what Jesus has done, what Saint Germain has done, we can do it. That is the path they are offering us, to just follow their path and do just the same if we want, if this is what we want, if this is what we choose. So we can have all help from heaven to just follow the path of light.
Love it. All right. Well, let's do 3 tube of light decrees. So we go through once and then we'll do it 3 times. So I like to sing my decrees when I do them naturally. So if you care to sing along with me, or if you would like to just speak it, do whatever feels best for you at home. And Francoise, appreciate you putting your energy into the recording and doing this with me too. So here we go. Beloved, I am presence bright around me. Seal your tube of light from ascended master flame. Called forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire. Keeping on in freedom's name till I am one with the violet flame. Beloved, I am presence bright around me. Seal your tube of light from ascended master flame. Called forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire. Keeping on in freedom's name till I am one with the violet flame. Beloved, I am presence bright around me. Seal your tube of light from ascended master flame. Called forth now in God's own name. Let it keep my temple free from all discord sent to me. I am calling forth violet fire to blaze and transmute all desire. Keeping on in freedom's name till I am one with the violet flame. And then imagine that strengthening every time we do that. And every day it actually builds, and every day it will decline if not used. So there is a momentum effect that the more we actually decree a thing, it becomes that thing, Francoise.
Yes, everything you say, you say, I am tired, I am fed up, or I feel, I am full of light, I am full of energy. You become what you are saying, because I am is the name of God. Is the name of God in you, your I am presence. So every time, everyone, whatever they believe it or know it or don't know it, I am is the name of God. So we are using the name of God many, many, many times in all our lives. So everything we say, I am, it has the power to bring forth what we are saying after the I am. So it's better to say, I am full of energy. I am full of grace. I am full of all the abundance into my hands. I am all that is coming into the world as coming from on high. So we are all that.
I am now in the process of is a very powerful setup statement that we can use when we're not fully there, but we're working on something. Because the subconscious, if we say, I'm amazing, and we don't believe it in that moment, our ego and it will go through the storage locker of all of your not enoughness in order to reaffirm that that is not true, and sabotage us. So I am in the process of feeling amazing, or whatever it is that can make it so that it's a present thing that you're doing, or it's a present action that you're working to become. Your ego can't sabotage you from saying that that doesn't exist there. Or maybe it's not the ego. What are you thinking about that?
You know, humanly, it makes sense to say I am in a process of becoming. But if we understand when the master says the masters gave us a lot of these decrees where we say I am. And when we say I am, what we mean exactly is God in me is. So if I say I am in the process, you are in the human. If you say I am and you mean God in me is, it's already there. It's already there. It's the only reality.
True. Right.
Okay. So there's a little difference in and I would say in the interpretation of the I am. Yeah. So when we say the decree, I am, suddenly I let's see, I am victory, I am the Divine Mother, I am that I am. Well, if I know that I'm saying God in me is, I don't have to fight with my unconscious or subconscious, because I am is my reality, because I'm totally connected.
Love that.
Okay.
That is a total aha moment for me, Francoise. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's totally the distinction. Are we coming from our humanly lower self, or are we coming from the highest self that we have access to?
You know, the path is saying just that. When we say I am, recognize the part of God in our life. And God is victory. God is perfection. God is love. God is wisdom. We are learning to become that. But when we use the name of God, I am perfection. So we are bringing God down into our consciousness, in our subconscious, unconscious. Mm-hmm. And then it's a reality. It is now. So that's why the repetition of these decrees or these mantras are just penetrating all our levels of conscious, subconscious, whatever level. And it's bringing down through the crystal cord of, and our I am present, we have all of us are using just God's energy, God's mind, God's love, God's heart. And more, as you were saying, we are becoming what we are saying and decreeing. So the decree becomes, what we are decreeing becomes the law of our being. We still are in the human mode of having subconscious and things like that, but there's no fight, whatever. This is all at the human level. But when we say I am, and we know it's God in us, then we become one with God. So there's only God. That's why the master said, you are God. So we have to work on believing it.
And for anybody that struggles with the idea that we're gods, what if we broke down the word God into grand overall designer, or creator, or source, or the way to be able to bring it down to something that helps us return to the fact that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only displaced and transmuted. So if we're talking about God, we're just talking about the creator that created creators that are now creating. And if we think of ourselves as conscious co-creators in this orchestra called life, how magical is the experience when then we realize that our life is the canvas that we're painting on.
Yeah, our life is the canvas in which we are painting who we are.
Right? And so that's why it's so intentional about being intentional about who we choose to be in this world, how we choose to show up, what we choose to stand for, which is why freedom matters. And it's not even about freedom fully, it's about being free. Because if we actually look at the word freedom and break down the two aspects of it, like I love to do with words, we get free and dumb. And to be dumb is unable to express ourselves or to speak for ourselves. To be free is to be able to speak for ourselves and by example allow others to speak for themselves and become the wave because we allowed ourselves to be the pebble that led a ripple effect out into the ethers that changed the collective consciousness because like the 100th monkey effect that we talked about last week,
Yeah, yeah.
we only just need to get a small percentage of us focused on the free side of being dumb or being or having freedom and breaking that word down so that we know what we're focused on.
You know, freedom for me, the way I understand it now, it's and I think it's through these Saint Germain's on alchemy that to be free means free to be God.
Mm-hmm.
So until we really understand that we are free to be God, well, we can work on freedom of many things from the world and things like that. So in reality, free the principle of being free is to be free to be God now, here and now. That's the real freedom.
And when we experience that, we are able to actually use our creative capacity to bring about that change we seek in the world.
We are becoming free as God is free to create everything he wants.
And so are we. If only we will give ourselves permission. We are the box. This is the container. We are the light I am.
That's it.
So may you remember how powerful you are as you go about your week ahead. May you remember and hold in your heart that instead of doing what you've always done, you dare to do something different so that you can transmute that which was previously your lot in life. And instead, you can create the plot that you choose your life to follow along because that is what you've come here for. It is not to reproduce somebody else's dream. It's for you to be able to let your heart song out into this world, to flood the airwaves of our consciousness.
And just remember the favorite word of Saint Germain in this chapter: try.
Woo! Yes, please. Just dare to try.
Just there
Thank
to
you for
be
sharing.
God.
Try to be God. Try to be God. How simple is that? Can you give yourself permission to be a co-creator, a conscious co-creator this week? To show up to a moment where you react to something that brings you into the past and out of the moment where all your power exists. And instead of going down that rabbit hole, you say, no, today I'm going to recenter and I'm going to breathe through this and I'm going to get myself back where I have my power. And then I'm going to look at the situation and say, you're not as scary as I thought that you were when you were so big. Because as soon as you extract your energy from that which you gave it to previously, it loses your power. And then suddenly you remember that you were the power source in the first place. How powerful is that?
Yeah. And you have to say to this situation or to whatever it is, you say, you have no power in me. God is the only power that I can accept. God is the only power that I know over everything. And that's very powerful.
Yeah, because it's clarifying what we're willing to receive in us as to whether it's direct source, which is godly, rather than the lie of God that is Luciferian false light that would present itself as the real thing, except for the devil generally comes bearing the gifts of everything we wanted and looks like the perfect package. And yet the reality is, like, do we actually want that which we thought that we needed in order to fit into a really polluted and sick world that has made us trade out and sell out one another for the sake of a bank account based on a fiat system that's not even based in anything legitimate other than the legitimacy we give it? Isn't that insane?
Yeah, Kujumi gave us a key in one of his dictation. He said, it's not what is happening to you, it's your reaction to what is happening.
Yeah.
There is the key of your power,
Yeah.
your reaction, and you possessing your power over everything. You have no power over whatever is this the situation, whatever is the person. Your reaction, you possess your reaction, and you are the master of the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, thank you, thank you again, Francoise, for another incredible session going through Saint Germain on alchemy. Of the 4 pillars of the teachings of the Ascended Masters, you can read the rest of it yourself at 4pillars.higherconsciousness.ca. So definitely go and enjoy that and listen back to this chapter a couple times. The Pearl Call is given to help you unlock more of the light codes that your consciousness may not have been prepared to receive before that decree of sorts readies you and the space of your container to receive that information and go to a deeper level. So that's the reason we read that at the end of each chapter, just to really help us assimilate the light in a more fluid way. Have a great night. Toodaloo.
Thank you.